Hello lovely humans, it's Lou here from Yarntisty, and in today's stash busting video we're going to be working on this adorable Chocolate Chip Cheetah Cookie, which is not the easiest thing I've ever had to say, but he's very easy to look at because look at that face. Adorable. For those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Lou and I'm a crochet designer. I run Yarntisty on pretty much every social media channel going, so you can find me following the links below. I also am the YouTube host for Simply Crochet magazine. And if you would like to look at this pattern in a more written down format, you can find it by following the link to yarntisty.com, which will also be in the description. If you would like to sell anything that you make from this pattern, do feel absolutely free, but a credit to me for the pattern and for the character design would be very much appreciated, because when you are running a small business, every little helps. So without further ado, here is what you'll need to get started. What you'll need is a 3mm crochet hook, beige or camel double knit yarn, a pair of 9mm safety eyes, felt pieces in brown, pink and cream, a yarn needle, polyester stuffing and glue. So first of all, what you want to do is grab your camel or beige double knit yarn. Now for this demonstration I am using Stylecraft Special double knit in the shade Camel. The first thing you want to do with this project is create yourself a magic loop, which is sometimes referred to as a magic circle or an adjustable ring. Now I will not be showing you in any great detail how to do that just now, but I will link you to a video that I made for Simply Crochet magazine recently, where I went into great detail about how to do this complicated bit of fiddly, yarny wizardry. So first what you want to do is you want to yarn over and pull through to secure your magic ring. Now this does not count as a stitch. What we then want to do is insert 6 double crochet stitches into that ring. We then want to pull the non-working end to close up that gap. Our first round is going to be an increase round, so we are going to be inserting 2 double crochet stitches into each stitch around, which should leave you with a total of 12 stitches. For this second round, what we're going to be doing is only increasing every other stitch. So for the next stitch, we will do 1 double crochet. And then in the next stitch, we will do 2 double crochet. This pattern will continue all the way around this particular round. So we will do the 1 double crochet followed by an increase, a total of 6 times. For the third round, we will only be increasing every third stitch. So we will be doing 1 double crochet, and then in the next stitch, another double crochet. And then in the third stitch, we will be doing an increase, which again is 2 double crochet stitches in one space, and we will be repeating that until this round is finished, which will again be a total of 6 repetitions of that same pattern. For the next round, we will be increasing every 4th stitch, so we will do 3 double crochet stitches, followed by an increase, and again we will repeat this until the end of the round for a total of 6 repetitions. Be doing our increased stitches every 5th stitch on our hook, so we will do 4 double crochet stitches, followed by an increase, and this will be repeated all the way around as before for a total of 6 repetitions. And finally, as far as our increases go, this is going to be our last round. So what we're going to be doing now is we're going to be increasing every 6th stitch around. So we will do 5 double crochet stitches, followed by an increase, and I hate to sound like a broken record here, you guys, but we're going to do it again all the way round until we've done 6 repetitions. So what we're going to do after we've fastened off is put that piece to one side, and we're going to make the exact same piece again. When you have finished making your second piece, instead of fastening off, you are going to be doing a double crochet round. So you will be doing 1 double crochet stitch in each stitch around with no increases at all, and then you'll be fastening off. What we want to do now is add some lovely little peepers for our cheetah. So I have got just plain black safety eyes, but whatever you're comfortable with, if you like the ones with the coloured irises, or if you want to use some of the fancy schmancy cat eye ones, you are more than welcome to do so. Now the best thing that I've found to do when it comes to the eyes is to make sure that the eyes both go in before you put the backs on. Because once you do put the backs on, they do have a tendency to shift slightly, and this can kind of confuse you as to where the second eye should be placed, and you'll end up with them looking all wonky donkey, and you don't want that. Now what I've found with this particular pattern is that it really helps to trim down the backs of your safety eyes. Because they're quite long, sometimes they can kind of push through and they're almost too tall to fit inside your cookie. So the best thing to do is to get a nice big pair of pliers so that you can snip some of it off. But please do make sure that you're not snipping it off too close to your back, because otherwise the back can come off and they're no longer safe, which kind of defeats the purpose of buying safety eyes. You just want to kind of shorten them really, so that they're not taking up as much real estate when it comes to placing your 2 pieces together. Now here I've got some sort of a creamy felt, and I also have chosen a pinky sort of colour for the nose. What you want to do is you want to cut out a small, like a muzzle kind of shape. And I've found that a really good way to make sure this is symmetrical is just to kind of fold it in half and trim off any of the bits that don't look quite right. Next, you want to make your little nose. Now for cats, I quite like making the noses almost like a little bit of a heart shape. It can be really difficult when you're making something so small to distinguish from one animal to the next, and things like the nose shape, the placement of ears, things like that can really make all the difference when you're doing this sort of thing. So I'm just going to do almost like a little kind of a heart shape out of this pink felt. Now I'm using a wool blend felt, but you really can use any felt that you've got available to you, or any that you can go out and buy that you like the look of. I'm quite fussy about felt because I really don't like the acrylic stuff. It's all scratchy and horrible. Now we're going to check the placement of this, and then what we're going to do is we're going to use a clear glue, ideally, to stick it in place. Something like Yoo-Hoo or Bostik. Both companies do excellent clear glues that you can use for exactly this purpose. For our next step, we are going to need a small piece of cardboard and a pair of scissors. And what we're going to be creating here is a nice, firm, solid, flat base to go inside our cookie. So first of all, we want to make it about the size of our base piece, but maybe slightly smaller. So the easiest way to do this is just to kind of draw around your base piece and then just sort of give yourself a few millimeters of space inside, and draw out a nice lovely circle like so. You then want to cut this out with a nice sharp pair of scissors. Don't make the mistake of using your yarn scissors like I did, because they're pretty blunt now and could probably not even cut butter, to be perfectly honest. So some nice hefty kitchen scissors will do. And there you have your little finished cardboard circle ready for stiffening up your cookie. What you want to be doing is grabbing your yarn needle, which should be a nice big fat one with a big eye. It helps to make sure you're not sitting there for 3 days trying to thread the needle. You want to get your base piece and your cardboard, making sure that you have the piece facing right side outwards and the cardboard on the inside. You want to line up where you fastened off on both rows. When we're working with this sewing method, instead of going under these V shapes as we normally would, we're going to go through the middle of them, working only in the loop that's closest to us. So working only in the internal loop, we're going to pull that through. And then what we're going to do is move to the next stitch and go back in the opposite direction, again only through that one loop. We do not go underneath the V shape. Then what we're going to do is we're going to go back into our face piece, but we're going to be using again that same one loop, and we're going to pull that through. We are going to go back in the opposite direction through the next one, but what we're going to do here is go back through the last stitch we went through, the last loop we went through on the base piece, like so. Now it might seem a little bit complicated, but hopefully you'll get the hang of it in time. It is a bit fiddly. So we'll go through the next one, that one loop only as before, and then go back through the loop that we last left on from the face piece. And you almost go in kind of a almost like V shapes. It's really, really difficult to explain, and I really hope that the visuals of it are clear enough. You're going to do this all the way round until you are left with about a 2.5 centimetre gap at the end, because you need to make sure that you've got room for your stuffing. When we are left with our sort of 2.5 centimetre sized gap, we are going to start putting in our stuffing. Now, first of all, I'm going to tuck this tail in because it's really annoying and it keeps getting in the way. And then we're going to grab some little diddy handfuls of stuffing. Now you don't want to put it in too big a piece at a time. You want to kind of add little bits and pieces as and when, and make sure that you are stuffing only on top of your cardboard. You don't want to stuff any underneath, because otherwise that totally defeats the purpose and you'll get a lumpy bumpy bum. And nobody likes a lumpy bum. So you want to keep adding small amounts of stuffing. Make sure that you are getting in between the eyes, underneath the eyes, all around the place, so that you've got a nice even squishiness, because otherwise you'll be left with some horrible lumpy gaps. Once you feel like you've got enough stuffing, and you don't really need a huge amount, you can finish sewing up your two pieces, and then you can fasten off and sew in your ends so that you can't see them anymore. What we want to do now is we want to create our cheetah's little lovely ears. So we're going to grab our camel yarn again, and we are going to create another magic loop. We are then going to yarn over and pull through, and again this is not counted as a stitch. And then we're going to put 6 double crochet stitches into our loop. And then we're going to pull that closed. Now what we're going to do now is we're going to only be increasing every 3rd stitch. So we'll do 2 double crochet stitches. Again, this is Amigurumi technique, so we're going to be going around in a spiral without closing off. So that's our 2nd double crochet. We're then going to do an increase, which as we know is 2 double crochet stitches in the one space. And we're then going to do that a 2nd time. So we're going to do 2 double crochet stitches, followed by an increase, which is our 2 double crochet stitches in the one space. What we'll be doing next is we will only be increasing every 4th stitch around. So we will do 3 double crochet stitches, 1, 2, 3, and then an increase, and then we will do that a 2nd time. So we will do 1, 2, 3, and then we will do our increase. So next what we want to do is we want to do an increase stitch every 5 stitches along. Now you can see it's starting to come along shape-wise. So we want to do 4 double crochet stitches. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and then an increase. And we'll do that a 2nd time, so we will do 1, 2, 3, 4, and an increase. And what you want to do now is a round just of double crochet without any increases at all. You should have 12 stitches in the current round, so if you do 12 double crochet stitches, you should be just fine. We want to finish off with a slip stitch, and we'll then fasten off this piece, making sure that we leave a tail long enough for sewing everything on at the end. Now you need to make 2 of these pieces, obviously because our little cheetah has got 2 ears. So once you fasten this one off, if you want to go back and watch this piece again, and you can make your 2nd ear. Once you have both of your little ears, you want to have a little bit of a play around trying to figure out where exactly you want them to be placed so that they don't look odd and they look as adorable as humanly possible. Once you are happy with your placement, we are going to take the first ear. It doesn't really matter if you do left or right, and you are going to thread your yarn needle with your tail end. I would always make sure that the fastened off piece was at the back of my work because it can sometimes look a little bit imperfect and you want it to be as neat as possible. So we're going to find a stitch in the back of our cookie and we're going to insert our needle sort of sideways into that stitch. We're then going to pull that tight so that we can attach our ear. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go back into our ear, but as we did when attaching the top to the base, we're only going to be going into the outer loop. This is to avoid it kind of looking too bulky at the seam, and it does kind of give it a much neater finish. You're then going to go into the next stitch along on your ear. Sometimes easier to turn the piece to be able to do this properly. So you're going to go into that outer loop and you're going to pull that through. You're then once again going to find a stitch in the back of your cookie and you are going to go in through that sideways. And then you're going to go back into that same stitch on your ear from the previous part. So you're going to go back into that same loop. Keep checking the placement of the ear and make sure that you're sewing it on in the right place, because I've actually had countless occasions where I've got a bit carried away and then ended up with one ear an inch lower than the other one. So just keep tabs on where you're going with that one. Now you want to attach both of your ears in the same way. If it does help you to use dressmaker's pins to hold your ears in place while you do so, then by all means do that. I don't bother because I'm lazy, but whatever works for you is just perfect. And I will meet you back here when you're done. And here we have Chester Cheetah with both of his ears sewn on. Now I'm going to teach you a little trick that I use for adding a bit of definition to my work. You can use a small paintbrush or makeup brush, but I use a Q-tip or cotton bud, whichever you prefer to call it, and a small amount of just straight up blusher. And we're going to add a small amount to the kind of inner crevices of the ears, like so. Now we want to add a small amount of blusher under each eye. It will get on the actual safety eye, but you can just kind of rub it off, or you can use your finger or a clean Q-tip to kind of take that away. And there you have your beautifully defined and adorably shy looking cheetah face. What we want to do now is we want to add our chocolate chips. Now I'm going to use 2 different shades of brown for this, just to add a little bit more interest and a little bit more definition, but feel free to just use one if that suits you better. Now, chocolate chips are not always perfectly round and they are not always perfectly square. So I'm just going to do some chocolate chunks in mine, almost as if I'd just taken a knife to a big bar of chocolate and just chopped it up into lots of little bits. I'm going to cut various shapes, but try not to make any of them too big because otherwise it does have a tendency to take over. Next, you want to find placement for each of these chocolate chips on your cheetah's face that looks cute and evenly spaced out. Try not to bunch too many of the same colour together if you are using 2 different shades of brown. If you're not, you don't need to worry about it, but find a placement that looks good to you and that looks adorable and isn't too overpowering. Next, what you want to do is glue all of these pieces into place. Now I'm using a Boss Stick all-purpose clear glue. It works really, really well for sticking felt onto crochet pieces. I use felt all the time in my creations, and either this or the Yoo-Hoo all-purpose or multi-purpose glue works really, really well for the same effect. And there we have it. There is your finished chocolate chip cheetah cookie. I want to make a million of these, to be perfectly honest, because they're so cute. I'd quite like to have a whole biscuit barrel full of them. As I said at the start of the video, please do feel absolutely free to sell anything that you make from this pattern, but it really, really would be a great help to me if you were to credit Yarntisty for the pattern and for the design. Thank you so much for spending today with me. If you would like to have a look at the written version of that pattern, you can find it over on yarntisty.com. I will put the link in the description box below. Come and find me on social media. I would love, love, love to see all of your cheetah cookies, and I would love to see what else you managed to do with this pattern. I love you all very much, and you are amazing, and thank you so much for your continued support, not only for Yarntisty as a business, but for the channel and just for being amazing in general. So have a fantastic day, and I will see you very, very soon.